Okay, so this is very meta, but I'm going to make a video about a post and then attach the video to the post itself. Basically, just wanted to go over some things. One that came up a lot when you guys were corresponding yesterday about how you were feeling about the test is the idea of creating a reference sheet. And remember, this is an open notes exam. So it's a good idea to think about how you can best take advantage of that. So, high level tips: you want to do something, you want to try to address some of your weaknesses, but don't go too crazy. I've attached a bunch of things here. There's a document provided by the College Board with some just kind of high level tips. There's a standard reference sheet. That's available with all the tests that just has basic descriptions of methods. You can certainly use that, but you can also go beyond that. One of my students shared this array and array list document. It's a review sheet, but mostly finished on array list, how to traverse them, what methods you could use, that sort of thing. That might be worth looking at or incorporating in what you're doing. But this point is that I really wanted to talk about. I think it's a good idea to write a little bit of code. Don't go crazy, but do some basic examples that you can refer back to. Do things like declare an array list that has strings in it, or declare an array list that has different types of an object. I think from everything I've seen, I think you're going to have a question that has an array list, but it'll be something more complicated than just integers in the array list. So strings, or maybe even objects that have string attributes inside of them. So you want to get used to doing that. You'll want to do things like go through an array and copy stuff into an array list in the same order or reverse order. You'll want to do things like go through an array list of strings, compare the string to something, and then do something to it conditionally. Like, for example, if it's less than 5 characters, then you could pad it out so that it becomes 5 characters long, for example. Obviously, you're not going to come upon the exact thing that you're going to be asked to do, but by doing this, it might have you something close to what you're doing that you can use as a reference. So that's my suggestion. If you want to run anything by me, uh, please go ahead and do so. If you write some code and you want to show it to me, and if I think it's good, I'll let you know. Don't go crazy because you could spend forever doing this. And basically, you just want to really kind of think about some of the key ideas. All right. What I would not recommend you do, don't just go in there and do a bunch of Google searches. Um, it could be unreliable. You can kind of go down a hole of just like searching and searching and forget you were actually supposed to be answering the questions. Also, there is some risk for um, getting caught up in a cheating situation. So, for example, I don't know exactly how they're going to do it, whatever witchcraft they use to make sure that you're not corresponding with each other. But I know there's definitely software detection of communication from student to student, and they'll be, I'm sure, also running it through for detecting, if you have very bizarre mistakes and somebody else has the same bizarre mistake who's somebody then that could link something off. They'll probably be looking for different forums where you could be discussing. So if like if there was some thread on some kind of discussion forum that talked about the exam in real time, that would be trouble. So if you're just kind of going into the wilds of the internet, there's some chance, although I don't know if it's a great chance, but some chance you could stumble into something where you could get yourself in trouble. So don't go too crazy. Don't search wildly in the internet. Along the same lines, you want to be careful about shared documents. So a lot of times I pass you these Google Docs and you just have read only access to it, and it's not sort of a live shared document. Even in that case, to be safer, if you wanted to use something, I would make yourself a local copy of it. just to sort of admit all risk. But even more risky would be things where you've explicitly shared editing permissions. So let's say you and your friend want to make a reference sheet. Two of you want to work together, and you're going to compile this awesome reference sheet that you're both going to use for the test. I think that's great, but you need to make sure you sever that connection before the actual test time, because otherwise you can't just have some open document that you're both looking at it and able to edit at the same time, because obviously that's the same thing as having like a chat window open between you, and that could cause some problems. So if you are going to do something like that, just make sure you have a local copy. I would probably even just copy and paste everything and put it into like a text pad document, so you have it right there next to what you're doing. um, so that's basically it. Oh yeah, they specifically that FAQ. That's a great example, because right now all of you guys in all of my classes have edit permission for that FAQ document. So that's theoretically a way that you can communicate. So there's probably nothing in there that you would want to have on test day anyway, but you want to be careful of something like that where you could have a bunch of people with edit permissions on the same document. You don't want to have anything like that open at test time, or that could get messy. So that's all. Really, just reading a lot of this stuff and adding some flavor to it. So hopefully that helps in one format or another. And of course, this is not today's main post. The main thing you're supposed to be doing today is taking that practice test. And we'll get back to you later on that, and let you know what we're going to do next, and um, how that goes and how you did on it. And I will provide some answers, of course, down the road. Okay, thanks for your attention. Goodbye.